At the time of this video, the last year that the US made enough baby per woman to sustain itself without the need of immigration was in 2007, where the US averaged around 2.2 babies per woman. But since 2008, it has been falling below replacement level every single year. And when we look at the numbers in 2026, the average is currently sitting at 1.6 per woman, and it is still trending down. So the obvious question becomes the following one: why don't Americans make any babies anymore? And though many people think the cost of living is the primary reason, it is far from being the single one. And that's why in this video, you'll find out 7 surprising reasons why Americans are not making babies anymore. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first reason is actually the improvements made in contraception. Here's something most people don't connect. The sharpest drop in the American birth rate didn't happen during a recession or inflation times. It happened right around 1960, when the birth control pill was approved for use in the United States. And within a few years, millions of women had access to it. This was a turning point. For the first time in history, having sex and having children became 2 completely separate decisions. Women gained real control over their reproductive choices, and naturally, many of them chose to have fewer kids, or to have them later. And most of the reasons that we'll mention next will be built on top of that. So now, the second reason is because of higher education. In 1960, only 8% of the US population had a bachelor's degree or higher. In 2026, it is 39%. By spending 4 years in college, then maybe a few more years to get a master's degree, and then trying to land your first real job in a very competitive market takes almost your entire 20s. And this matters on a national scale because women have a biological window for having children, and the older they are when they have their first child, the less likely they are to have a second or third. So even if every woman who wanted children eventually had one, the fact that it's happening later in life mechanically reduces the average number of children per household. At the time of this video, the average age of a first-time mother in the US is around 28 years old. But in cities and among college-educated women, it's often closer to 30 or beyond. That's a completely different world compared to 1960, where the average age was 21 to become a mother. But when you understand that half of 21 years old men and women nowadays are still in school trying to build a future, it makes a lot of sense. But despite the 2 reasons I mentioned, more than 4 out of 5 women still end up with a baby before they hit 40. But here is a reason why many don't actually make a second child: the childcare expenses. Depending on where you live in the US, full-time childcare for an infant can run anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month, and sometimes even more. That's often as much as paying rent. And unlike rent, it's not something you can negotiate down or delay. If both parents work, someone has to watch the baby, and watching a baby is costly. What researchers and family advocates consistently point out is that this isn't just a barrier to having a first child, it's a major reason people stop at one. Spending more than $1,000 per month to babysit a child when your job is not guaranteed, when the economy can enter a recession at any time, when your car can break down tomorrow, or when a medical bill can burn your savings, is not something many people can afford. And that's why many stop at one child, which keeps the national average low. But speaking of personal finances, if you want to increase your savings, I suggest you consider budget planner books. These books help you track your income and expenses on a daily to monthly basis to help you figure out how you can save hundreds to thousands of dollars every single month. If you want to order some for yourself, pick one on the Amazon links in the video description. Using any of them would directly support the channel as well. Now let's get back to reason 4. The fourth reason is because of political and job market uncertainty. There's something psychological happening that doesn't show up neatly in economic data. Young Americans today feel deeply uncertain about the future. Go to the streets and talk to most people under 40, and they'll tell you that they don't know what their life will look like in 5 years. At the time of this video, entire industries are being disrupted by AI. Some employers that used to accept remote work are now deciding that they don't want to. The government jobs that were increasing from 2020 to 2024 are now decreasing since 2025, and many other trends. Now ask a 25-year-old couple to make a 20 to 25 years plan for their children with these uncertainties, and you understand why they're hesitant. And that's assuming they can even pay rent in the first place. Now the fifth reason, climate change. This one is newer, but it's certainly real. A growing number of young people, particularly those in their 20s, say that concerns about climate change are a major factor in their decision not to have children or to have fewer. The reasoning is partly about the world their child would grow up in, and partly about the environmental impact of adding another person. Some people feel genuinely conflicted about bringing children into a future they see as increasingly unstable, with more extreme weather events, more resource pressures, and more political conflict tied to climate. Now, probably the most boring reason, but actually a very real reason that the media often doesn't talk about, is simply the lack of interest for children. Some people just don't care, or just don't want to reproduce because they don't see the appeal in doing it. And most of the time, they don't have the appeal because they have other personal ambitions, such as traveling, building a career, staying flexible, and focusing on their own lives. So yes, for some people it has nothing to do with external factors such as the economy, the climate, or politics, but simply not being in their radar of things to accomplish. Now, reason number 7, and probably the most expected reason, the cost of living. The problem isn't just that things are expensive, it's that for a lot of young Americans, wages haven't kept up with the cost of housing, healthcare, and basic necessities. Inflation over the past few years has accelerated something that was already happening. Someone in their mid-20s today, in most major cities, is spending a much higher share of their income on rent than their parents did at the same age. That's not an opinion, that's reality. When you're struggling to build any financial stability for yourself, taking on the responsibility of a child feels irresponsible. It's not just that Americans don't want kids because life is hard and expensive, it's literally that they don't have the income for it. So now you understand why Americans don't make babies anymore. It's not just that inflation destroys their wealth, but also that many contraception methods exist, that people are in school in their 20s, that the earth is doing worse every year, that politics are unstable, and that some people just have other priorities. If you learned something from this video, give it a like. And if you want to see more similar content, why not click on one of the videos showing on your screen right now? I'll see you on the next one.